in our culture. What is it? Yeah, what church do you go to? And, I am not just a pill here. I am out in our neighborhood. And so I often don't answer that the way that they are expecting. They want me to say, I go to North Point Christian Church. And I don't always say that. Any more than they say, well, what do you do? And I try to be as stealth as I can be and not tell that I'm a pastor until I absolutely have to, because everything changes once I tell people that I'm a pastor. It just gets weird. And so I'm a counselor. I'm a teacher. Hey, where do you teach? I teach all over. I don't know. But the whole idea of going to church is something that I learned to challenge, especially when I was a very, very young parent, because we didn't, and you've heard me say this before, some of you have, I didn't want my children to grow up saying, I go to church. So we taught our boys to say, I go to the church house over on the corner. When they got up and it was Sunday, what are we doing? Oh, we're going to the church house today. And then teaching them to say, I am the church. Which is really funny when you have like a 3-year-old, answering the question to adults, and they say, what church do you go to? Oh, no, I am the church. Makes for good dialogue, between a 3-year-old and an adult. So, lesson learned here, or reminded of, is that we didn't go to church for a while. So you couldn't say that. And people had to become creative about being the church wherever they went, wherever you went. There was this, for me, de-emphasizing of going to a building to live out my faith. My faith needed to be lived out daily wherever I went. It was that way for you also. Now, we opened our doors back up, I don't know, how about 4 months? 4 months after they shut down. And so we kind of quickly started doing the go-to-church thing, but life had changed a lot. So I'm going to ask somebody a question. David? Raise your hand, David. You, David. Okay, David. All right. That's David. David and Gigi are in the process of moving here, back here from California. We met David and Gigi and their family how many years ago? A dozen years ago. They started coming here to this church building, and we became great friends. Then his business kind of relocated him back to California. For the year and a half that you were out there, what was going to church like where you lived? Were churches...
It was patchwork. I mean, everyone was trying something different. Nobody quite knew what to do without brick and mortar.
Yeah. A lot of my friends from California, they would call me up and they'd go, you guys are meeting? You're in a building? I go, Texas, okay? Yeah. And
still going on, by the way.
Yeah, it is, and it is in other states, and it is even in places in Texas still. So we're not completely through this, but I think that we had this experience of recognizing that we are the church wherever we go. I think some of you, because I've talked with you, you have some really different relationships with your friends right now. I mean, I know, Aaron, you guys do. You know, where people would come and gather at your house. They would come over. Those things became really meaningful. I know that's true for Corey and Lindsay. People coming over and having these sort of, I mean, they're church meetings. You know, they just aren't meeting at a church building, and you don't have me there doing this. Let's not forget that. That is a super valuable lesson. So that kind of led me, or leads me to this second part of this, and that was because this was convoluted. Okay, remember when we first started meeting in here together? You know, the first 2 or 3 months, and how we would leave from here, and everybody would go out the door going, "I hate this. I hate this." The way that we had this room set up, which there's still a little bit of residue of the setup in here, just a little bit. But when we first started meeting in this room, and we had, you know, 3 chairs over there and 3 chairs over there, and we kept the extra chairs over there for the large families that would come in and set them up, and there were a few over here. And I remember standing up in front and struggling so badly because I couldn't see anybody's mouth. So here's a little sidebar lesson that I learned in communication. Okay, when you are talking face to face with somebody, what do you look at? When you are sitting across the table from somebody having lunch and you're having a conversation, what are you looking at? Does anybody know? Do you pay attention enough to know?
Depends on the topic.
Depends on the topic? Oh, Beth.
I would say no. I don't think people's eyes. Maybe that's weird.
What were we raised to believe? Oh, yeah. You have to look people in the eyes. Have you ever had somebody sit across the table from you at McDonald's and just rivet on your eyes? It's like, I want to say to them, stop. You're like creeping me out. You know, if they stare at the eyes. No, what we generally do is we look at people's mouths. Because the eyes are secondary for expressing ourselves. The mouth area is where you really find out if they are with you or not. Okay, so I am up here, everybody in the room has masks on, and I'm going, I don't know. Or did they laugh? Did they get what I was saying? And I'm looking, and there are some people that knew I was struggling, and here's what you were doing the whole time. You know, making your eyes go up and down, your eyebrows. Yeah, you know, and nodding heads and so forth. Because I couldn't see here, and how much it meant to me when we finally began to take off masks and I could see people's mouths and we could talk. It was such a huge change. And so here are some lessons about coming back in here and worshiping together. But before I do that, I want to ask you a question. What are some of the, for you, what are some of the differences between worshiping online, in front of your television, in your bathrobe, laying in bed with your cup of coffee, and getting up, putting on clothes, combing your hair, getting in the car, and walking into the building? I'm pushing you. What have been some of the differences between the two for you that stand out? Jason, we really don't care if you wear your underwear here, okay? Oh, they should. Sorry. Make sure you have a robe on, okay? get a little deeper than that.
I don't get the same sense of unity
When you're at home?
of body life, you know.
You mean the comment section didn't buzz you? Yeah.
The intentionality of it.
I know what you mean, but I want you to explain it.
I mean, I'm intentional about when I get up. I have to get dressed. I have to wake up. I have to set my alarm. I happen to wake up. No one's going to miss me. If I'm
That's
on
not
time,
true.
I don't know. But not really. And I don't feel the connection. But if I happen to wake up in time, or even if I don't, I can roll over on my phone, flip it on. And there's no real intentional purpose to it. It was,
Yeah.
Or I could sleep in and watch it.
Oh, yeah.
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 Because that's all I'm doing is watching. I'm not participating.
Yeah. What else?
We didn't sing.
What?
I know. I know.
What'd she say?
What did you say?
We didn't sing.
We didn't sing.
Yes, we didn't.
You didn't sing at home by yourself?
I did. Everybody else.
We need your monitor, who usually sits next to you. We need to get him here. What else?
Relationships. Be able to at least do a fist bump with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're watching it at home, I mean, the relationships are not being fostered. Maybe with your spouse and your family, there were some cool things that happened. I remember during those months asking people, hey, what's it been like for your family during this? And people, I think people made the most of it and had some really creative times. We tried to pass on ideas of how you could make this a better thing, but it was really isolated to a person's family. And it was very difficult, I think. So take that question and go a step deeper, at least in your thinking. For you, when it comes to experiencing the presence of God. Now, I'm gonna leave that wide open because we all experience the presence of God in different ways. There are some in here that are more intuitive. There are some who are more tactile. There are some who are more relational when it comes to experiencing the presence of God. So I'm going to leave that open. When it comes to experiencing the presence of God, what's the difference between private and corporate? Because I'm going to say, I think that we experience the presence of God when we are alone. Do we not? Okay. So what's the difference for you between experiencing the presence of God while you're alone versus experiencing the presence of God with other people?
Compounding of the Spirit.
Say that again.
Compounding of the Spirit.
Okay. Yeah, get more. Yeah.
Pay attention, you see a lot of miracles around you.
Yeah, I probably get a better view of that than anybody does on Sundays, to be able to see light bulbs go on, or smiles or tears or something because of what is happening in the moment. Certainly. And that kind of speaks to what Beth said of compounding the experience.
I think it's really eye-opening to watch. It's different when you're by yourself, but being in a room or in a group of people where everybody has their own way of worshiping, whether that's closing their eyes and raising their hands or whatever they're doing, and it shows people that it's okay to worship that way, or whatever way you do. Everybody does it differently, right? And so I think saying that it's okay, and I think Aaron and I we probably see that see that a lot. We see everybody worshiping differently, but collectively, and it's really cool to see that.
I get more distracted.
Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that, because he just said the exact opposite of what is logical, and Jason said, I get more distracted when I'm by myself. You would think that the distraction would be in a crowd, or all of the other things going
That's
on.
what's better for me because I feel it more around me.
So,
There's the accountability to be focused.
Yeah.
well, certainly, I mean, you can't come in here and act like a goon or something in the middle of a service. So you are kind of forced to sit still and listen and go with the crowd.
Like when you go to a baseball game, the home crowd's rooting for a team, or they're eating pizza.
Or if you're me at my grandson's game, that's a great time to check your Twitter feed. Okay?
I don't know if I can explain this the way I'm thinking it, but for me, when I'm home, I have a different kind of connection with God than I do here. I'm more vulnerable. It's more personal. I want to say it's deeper when I'm home. Not necessarily home watching online, but home in my time with God than it is here. And here it's probably more joyous. It's more it's more communal. It's just, it's fuller in some ways. So they both have benefit for me, but just different.
Yeah, that's kind of a fascinating thing, Vicki, because this whole thing that's going on in our culture right now of people being way more vocal about quitting church, deconstructing their faith, moving away. One of the common themes in that is that they will often say or write about the intensity of their private time with God. And it becomes deeply satisfying for them. And if you combine that with, let's say, a less than stellar church experience growing up, or even say that church had become somewhat toxic, it's really easy to then separate, because it's like this is bad and this is really good. And so I think the entire 2 years of COVID, where everybody started doing things differently, it either made it way better and we longed to be together, or it pushed people farther away and gave them permission to say, I don't need that mess over there in the building anymore. Me and God are just fine.
I want to talk about that, Mike.
Okay.
Deconstructing the faith and talking about the more intense private time. Something I've heard from a lot of people, whether it's about church, whether it's about working from home, whether it's about social gatherings, etc. What I hear from people is they're not looking at the whole picture. They're looking at, I see this bad, I'm going to justify my position. I see this good, I'm going to justify my position. I'm going to all these other facts, all these other observations, I'm going to put them aside because they don't fit the conclusion I want to have. And it could be a wide variety of things. It's how most people actually kind of go to politics, honestly. I'm going to ignore all these other facts that don't support my position. I'm going to look at this bad and this good because this gives me what I need. I want to go to church because I've had a toxic experience and my private time with God is very much more intense. And all this other stuff doesn't matter. I'm just going to ignore it. And I say that because I hear this over and over again. I'm dealing with a lot of people right now trying to get them to come back into the office. I'm hearing a lot of things, so I'm just going, that's 10% of the picture.
Yeah.
And I'm not in the mood to have that argument, so I'm just giving exceptions left and right, because it's just like I'm not going to argue about this. You can keep working, I don't care. But it's bothersome to me because in theory, I work with people who are supposed to be all about data, and they're ignoring a lot of data.
Jason, that's really well said, because I think that is exactly it, is that we fail to see big picture, and we've compartmentalized the good and the bad, and it's left us fractured and really hard to get people to move from their new position now, whatever it happens to be. It's fascinating to me.
What good is having intensity with God individually if it's not shared among the body?
And I also would say that, and I've learned this more over the last 2 years, that God uses other people to teach me as well. I can't learn as well in my bubble as I,
Mm-hmm.
So you need that perspective from others in your own life.
I'm not saying intensity is bad. I'm saying in isolation, it's where is the greater good for it?
Yeah.
I definitely see some things that much more do in private. No offense to anybody here. I'm going to confess my sins in private, not in front of the church, not in corporate environments. I think there are some arguments that some things are better alone. Just one alone with God. There are some things that I think are better because we are social creatures to do in a group setting. And I think we need to be honest about it. There are some things that I think even we've discovered during COVID, there are some things that we probably are better off doing on our own that we probably are used to doing in a group setting. There's some things that we discovered we really need to gather.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that to be fair to everybody in the process, we're not just talking about A and B, but there is very much a C, or this nuance between A and B. We are talking about doing something at home alone with your nuclear family, which was what we did for a while. And then the other side is come back to the church body as a whole, this big group. And truly, there is an in-between that everybody experiences. And that is our smaller group. Those people that we are more drawn to, that we share specific things in common with. For years and years, we have emphasized, not North Point only, but church has emphasized the need to find your people that you're going to hang out with. Now, what's interesting is that during the COVID experience, there were a couple of different kinds of people. There were people that used this as an excuse to not get out of their house and stay in this little tiny bubble because they had permission to live the introverted lifestyle that they knew that they were and they really liked. It's kind of like, I don't really like people. So now I don't even have to own it. I can just stay in my house. And people can think I'm really friendly, but I'm really not. Okay? You have people that are like that. But what you also have are what a lot of